Welcome, and thank you for attending the Future Ready Oregon Round 4 information session. Today, we will provide an overview of Future Ready Oregon funds and how they came to be. We will then talk a bit about the steps involved in creating a new registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship training program. Next, we'll discuss the award details for Round 4, and we will walk you through the application process. Finally, we will wrap up by providing contact information for the team here at the Apprenticeship and Training Division if you have additional questions. Program overview. In 2022, the Oregon State Legislature passed Senate Bill 1545, known as Future Ready Oregon, which provided a $200 million package of investments to advance a more equitable and diverse workforce system. Through BOLI's Apprenticeship and Training Division, Future Ready Oregon investments support the recruitment, retention, and career advancement for priority populations across the state. They do this by supporting the creation and expansion of pre-apprenticeship programs in 3 key sectors: construction, healthcare, and manufacturing, and the creation and expansion of registered apprenticeship programs in 2 key sectors: healthcare and manufacturing. At present, we anticipate disbursing $1.3 million in the 4th and final round of Future Ready Oregon competitive grants. In a moment, we will talk a little bit more about the application process and our funding expectations. The primary focus of Future Ready Oregon funding is to increase pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship opportunities and completion rates for these 10 priority populations, which should be a primary focus of your application. In the application, you will be asked to identify which priority populations you intend to serve and to describe how you plan to reach each specific population you have chosen. For example, what strategies will you use to reach these populations? How will you find and identify new community partners? And which community partners will you engage with? Future Ready Oregon's investment is aimed at expanding opportunities that provide direct pathways to family wage careers. With that in mind, in this final round of funding, we encourage applications from industries and geographic regions that have received fewer awards and less funding in previous rounds, including manufacturing and healthcare, as well as applications that demonstrate strong strategies of rural and frontier outreach. Applicants must identify the counties in which they plan to create a new registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program, or to which they plan to expand an existing registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program. Successful applicants will demonstrate that they have operated or are currently operating an effective registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program, explain how their proposed program leverages evidence-based training models, and provide evidence that demonstrates organizational capacity to scale an existing program to new counties that include a new workforce development region or statewide geographic scope. The Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council, along with the Apprenticeship and Training Division at the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries, is the governing body that regulates registered apprenticeship in the state of Oregon. The council is comprised of 8 members appointed by the governor, 4 from construction trades with apprenticeship programs, 2 from other trades with apprenticeships, and 2 from the public. The council is responsible for making final determinations in awarding all Future Ready Oregon grants, as well as approving new registered apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, and the expansion of existing registered apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs. It is important to note that the council only meets 4 times per year. That means if you intend to create a new registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program, or if you intend to expand your existing program to a new geographic region within the state, there are only 4 opportunities during the grant period of performance for council to approve those changes. Registered apprenticeship is an employer-driven model that combines on-the-job training with related classroom instruction that increases an apprentice's skill level and wages. All registered apprenticeship programs, regardless of industry, are comprised of 3 main components: an industry standard approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, certified classroom instruction, and paid, supervised on-the-job training. An industry standard for training in a given occupation is developed by employers and subject matter experts from the industry. Employers are the foundation of every apprenticeship program, and the skills needed by their workforce are at the core. Businesses must play an active role in building the program and be involved in every step of designing the apprenticeship. All standards are approved by and registered under the U.S. Department of Labor. When looking to create a new registered apprenticeship program, please be sure to check on the BOLI website to see if the standard is active in Oregon. If the standard is active in Oregon, that means that the standard is also registered under the U.S. Department of Labor. If the occupation has a standard at the federal level, approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, but that standard does not currently exist within the state of Oregon, you can work with the Apprenticeship and Training Division's operations team to create a new registered apprenticeship program within the state that mirrors those federal standards. If an occupation does not have a set of standards at the U.S. Department of Labor, you may still create a registered apprenticeship program for that occupation. The timeline to create a new standard from scratch and receive both state and federal approval is long, typically between 1 to 2 years. This means that this process will likely take longer than the grant period of performance allows. If you have any questions about creating a new standard for an occupation that is not yet represented in apprenticeship, please see our contact information at the end of the webinar. Paid on-the-job training comprises about 90% of apprenticeship training. Every registered apprenticeship program includes a minimum of 2,000 hours of structured on-the-job training. Apprentices receive hands-on training from an experienced mentor at the job site. On-the-job training is developed through mapping the skills and knowledge that the apprentice must learn over the course of the program in order to be fully proficient at the job. On-the-job training is provided by training agents across the state of Oregon. Training agents are employers who are registered with the local Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee and BOLI's Apprenticeship and Training Division. Training agents employ apprentices and provide the on-the-job training. Certified classroom instruction, or related training instruction, is the curriculum that provides foundational and theoretical knowledge about the trade. Apprentices receive related instruction that complements on-the-job training. This instruction delivers the technical, workforce, and academic competencies that apply to the job. It can be provided by a community college, a technical school, or an apprenticeship training school, or even by the business itself. It is necessary that if the business is to provide the related training itself, that the instructors are accredited by a nationally governing body. Education partners collaborate with business to develop the curriculum based on the skills and knowledge needed by apprentices. All partners work together to identify how to pay for related instruction, including the cost to the employer and other funds that can be leveraged. There are many steps involved in creating a new registered apprenticeship program, and here are some of the highlights of that process. Step 1 is to identify the occupation for which you intend to create a registered apprenticeship program. This is a critical step in developing the program. Your organization should first identify the occupation for which you are seeking registration. The next key step in creating a registered apprenticeship program is to identify and establish key partnerships, including those with employers, related training providers such as community colleges, workforce development agencies, labor organizations, and community-based organizations. Next, in working with the ATD operations team, you will work to develop core program components that satisfy the minimum standard guidelines for the occupation, if one exists, or you will develop the minimum standard guidelines alongside the ATD operations team for a new occupation. These core components include establishing the program sponsor, what is called the Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee. That is the group of employers and employees that will facilitate the program. They also determine the number of hours required for OJT, the necessary agreements with related training providers, and the progressive wage scale for apprentices, among other core components. Next, you will work with the ATD operations team to complete the new committee toolkit. Once the new committee toolkit is complete and deemed satisfactory by ATD staff, the program is ready to be submitted and reviewed by the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council for approval. Through Future Ready Oregon, you may also develop a pre-apprenticeship training program. Pre-apprenticeship is a program or set of strategies designed to prepare individuals for entry into registered apprenticeship programs or other job opportunities. Pre-apprenticeships may last from a few weeks to a few months and may or may not include participant stipends. Pre-apprenticeship programs have varied program elements. However, at the core, they place an individual on a pathway to employability through a registered apprenticeship program. The ATD operations team is available to assist in the creation or expansion of pre-apprenticeship programs through Future Ready Oregon. As mentioned earlier, the Oregon State Apprenticeship and Training Council only meets quarterly to review and approve new or expanding registered apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs. In your application, you must select which quarterly meeting you plan to seek council approval for your new pre-apprenticeship program, new registered apprenticeship program, or expansion of your existing program. Please note that all cutoff dates for submission materials are hard deadlines. No late submissions will be considered. In your project work plan, you are required to include monthly milestones that lead up to and include the OSAT quarterly meeting at which you plan to seek approval. Next, we will review project design and expected outcomes. We expect successful applicants to design their grant projects from two levels, from both a strategic and operational level. This means that the successful applicant will address both the how and the why behind their intentions of creating or expanding a registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program to serve priority populations, and how the organization has capacity to successfully facilitate those outcomes. The strategic project design will identify how your organization is best suited to meet the needs of the given priority populations you intend to serve. Demonstration of strategic project design will include, but is not limited to, a needs assessment of a county or workforce region within a given industry, a gap assessment of priority population needs in a given county or workforce region, planned activities to convene key partners, and comprehensive and evidence-based plans for priority population outreach. The operational project design will demonstrate your organization's capacity to successfully facilitate outcomes and deliverables from your grant application. Examples of such operational project design include, but are not limited to, evidence of organizational and staff capacity to support the work of the project, prior organizational and staff experience developing and supporting pre-apprenticeship programs and registered apprenticeship programs, and prior experience providing supportive services to program participants. A robust supportive services strategy is encouraged as part of the proposed program design. Grantees may fund supportive services through various means, including providing the actual supportive service, i.e. childcare, providing participants with a voucher for the service, i.e. public transportation cards, or providing a stipend directly to the participant. Applicants must have written eligibility criteria for program participants receiving the student support services listed in their approved budget and are required to track the type and amount of support services given to each participant. Throughout the 12-month grant period of performance, staff from the Apprenticeship and Training Division will monitor grantees' progress toward fulfilling their deliverables as identified in their grant applications. Qualitative as well as quantitative reporting will be required, including providing narrative updates on lessons learned, participant feedback, and reflections on program success. In terms of quantitative metrics, ATD staff will be measuring program success according to these performance outcome measures, such as the number of new participants enrolled, number of participants completing a program, number of new participants receiving support services, and the receipt of OSAT approval for a new program or programmatic expansion of an existing program. Next, we will cover award information and eligibility. Round 4 of Future Ready Oregon is a little different than previous rounds. The Apprenticeship and Training Division intends to award approximately $1.3 million in grant funds this round. Due to the limited funding this round, budget requests and award amounts will be capped at $300,000. This applies to all applicants across all industries, as well as whether an applicant intends to create or expand a registered apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program. Like past rounds, the grant period of performance will be 12 months in scope. We anticipate grant projects to begin in January 2024 and to conclude in December of 2024. All expenses, activities, and grant deliverables must be incurred and completed within this timeframe. Eligible applicants are organizations that are registered with the Oregon Secretary of State unless exempt by law and have an employer identification number or an EIN. More specifically, eligible applicants include community-based organizations, labor organizations, workforce development boards, community colleges, public schools, education service districts, small businesses with fewer than 25 employees, and other education or curriculum providers. Entities that have received prior BULI Future Ready Oregon funds are only eligible for an award under this RFGA if the application proposes a program in a new industry or occupation or presents a significant expansion of the previously funded Future Ready Oregon program to new rural or frontier areas or priority populations. Proposals that simply continue previously Future Ready Oregon funded programs are not eligible. As noted earlier, all Future Ready Oregon awards under Round 4 will be capped at $300,000. Allowable expenses include personnel costs and fringe benefits, education or training costs, training supplies and materials, student supportive services, contractual and consultant fees, staff travel, marketing and outreach materials, administrative and indirect costs, and program-related equipment costs so long as they do not exceed 30% of the total budget request. Certain types of expenses are prohibited under Future Ready Oregon. These include apprentice or pre-apprentice wages, the funding of personnel that would be backfilled by previously committed funds from another source during the grant cycle, convening employers or developing new registered apprenticeship programs in the construction industry, purchases or activities that occur prior to or after the grant performance period, equipment requests that exceed 30% of the total budget request, program equipment that will not primarily be used by program students, subrecipient budget expenditures as defined in Attachment A of the RFGA, capital improvement expenditures including purchase of land, construction of new facilities, or renovations to any building or facility, lobbying to influence legislation, scientific or academic research, expenditures that have or will be reimbursed by funds from any other source, religious activities, and annual fund appeals and contributions to endowments. Please refer to the RFGA for specifics around the total number of prohibited expenses. Partnerships are essential to both registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. Pre-apprenticeship applicants should pay special attention to the partnership requirements of Future Ready Oregon, as pre-apprenticeship applicants must submit a signed memorandum of understanding from an existing BULI certified registered apprenticeship program that describes preferential and/or direct entry for program participants into their registered apprenticeship program. All applicants, regardless of whether they intend to create or expand pre-apprenticeship or registered apprenticeship programs, must include signed letters of support from all identified key partners. Next, we will review the application submission requirements and timeline. The Round 4 Future Ready Oregon application process looks a little bit different than previous rounds. This application process will contain two parts. Part 1, which is open to any and all interested applicants, and Part 2, which will be open by invitation only. Part 1 of the application will go live on Friday, September 22nd, along with the RFGA. Part 1 will provide ATD with an overview of your organization and your grant focus, activities, and outcomes. Upon ATD review of the submitted Part 1 applications, select applicants will be invited to submit a more detailed Part 2 application. Part 1 of the application is designed to give ATD an overview of the applicant organization and the major components of the proposal, such as targeted industry and occupation, priority populations to be served, project goals and activities, timeline, budget outline, and board and staff lists. In addition, Part 1 requests current enrollment data for programs wishing to expand. Part 1 opens on September 22, 2023, and closes on October 3, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. ATD staff will review the submitted Part 1 applications and determine which proposals will be invited to Part 2. Part 2 of the application continues where Part 1 leaves off and requests additional organizational information and asks applicants to provide more detail about the proposed program outreach, outcomes, and budget, including a detailed project plan and budget. Templates will be provided, signed letters of support from all identified key partners, signed applicant certification form, which is provided, applicant organization tax returns from the past 2 years, a financial audit completed within the past 3 years, and for pre-apprenticeship applicants only, a signed memorandum of understanding showing formalized agreement with at least one registered apprenticeship program for direct or preferential entry into that program for participants. Here you will see an overview of key dates in the application process. Please note that the application deadline for Part 1 is October 6, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. All application materials, including supporting documents such as signed letters from partners, must be submitted by this deadline. Only complete applications will be reviewed. After receiving applications for Part 1, ATD staff will contact those applicants selected to move to Part 2 on October 20th to inform them that they are moving ahead. Applicants then have until 11:59 p.m. on November 3rd to submit Part 2 of the applications. Complete applications, including Parts 1 and 2, will then be reviewed by the Evaluation Committee. The Evaluation Committee will include a diverse panel of stakeholders that have knowledge about apprenticeship, workforce development, and one of the 3 grant industries or grant management. Depending on the number of applications submitted, a single evaluation committee may review all applications, or additional evaluation committees will be formed and each will review a subset of applications submitted. All committee members will use the same scoring rubric. Evaluation committee members will independently review Parts 1 and 2 of each assigned application and assign a numeric score for the identified questions and elements using the scoring criteria that we will review in a moment. Scored questions and elements will be clearly identified in the application. Here is the grant scoring rubric that the Evaluation Committee will use to evaluate each complete application that has submitted Part 1 and been invited to submit Part 2. Select questions in the grant application that will be specified will be evaluated according to this rubric, and a copy of the grant application as well as this scoring rubric will be made available on ATD's website for applicant review. Applications will undergo 2 types of review: a merit review based on Parts 1 and 2 of the application, and a risk assessment review. As we've already discussed the merit review process conducted by the Evaluation Committee, I will focus our attention on the risk assessment process. Each applicant will be screened for violations, including those against BOLI Civil Rights Division, BOLI Wage and Hour Division, the Oregon Department of Revenue, and Oregon OSHA. Applicants with any violations will be flagged and notified. Here is a recap of key application submission deadlines. Part 1 must be received no later than 11:59 p.m. on Friday, October 6th. If invited, Part 2 must be received no later than 11:59 p.m. on Friday, November 3rd. All application materials, including supporting documents, must be submitted via SurveyMonkey. A link to the application can be found on BOLI's website. A wide range of information related to this RFGA and application can be found on ATD's grants website, including a written frequently asked questions, application instructions, a PDF of application Part 1 and Part 2, sample grant agreement, sample project plan form, sample budget form, Future Ready Oregon Statute Senate Bill 1545, and a schedule of and links to virtual ATD grants team office hours. As noted earlier, the RFGA will go live on Friday, September 22nd, so please check back for updates. Thank you. Lastly, please find our contact information here and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions during the application process. We wish you luck and look forward to reading your application soon.